Chargers fans, Electric Shock supporters, hate listeners, everybody out there, the draft is less than 1 week away. And the Chargers can definitely use an edge rusher. As I talked about in our previous videos, I'm going to break down edge rusher today, and I'm going to tell you exactly what I like and don't like about the top edge rushers in this draft and whether or not the Chargers should spend a high draft pick on any of these guys. Let's get into it. All right, Chargers fans, as I alluded to in the intro, we're getting ready to get into the draft on Thursday of next week. It is Friday, wrapping up the week strong, and we're going to talk about edge rushers today. And this was going to be a quick analysis in regards to what the edge rushers look like, what I don't like, what I do like about each top tier candidate. A lot of guys' names have been thrown out there in the Twitter stratosphere and the Chargers fan base forums. So I'm going to break these guys' names down that are very popular amongst the fans and tell you what I like and don't like about them and whether or not they're worthy of a first round pick or a later round pick in the draft if they fell to the Chargers in the later rounds. So I'm going to do this for O-line, edge rusher, and maybe interior D-line. I might do that as well. I think that's definitely a definite need. There's a lot of buzz around Dexter Lawrence and other guys being drafted potentially to the Chargers as well to help out this interior D-line. So we're going to get into at least those two, maybe a third, depending on how things shake out in next week before we get to the draft. But yes, we are here. Let's do edge rushers. Let's talk about it. So, we're getting into the idea of who's available and who's, and who's the guy. Clearly the likes of Averill Reese and David Bailey and Ruben Bain, those top three guys are likely not going to be available at 22. I mean, that's really a pipe dream. I mean, really, the board would have to be really wonky and really wacky, or if this smear campaign that they're doing for Ruben Bain in the moment would cause him to drop all the way to 22, and we have to have a conversation about that. But outside of those guys, I mean, we've been realistic. The guys, the second wave of edge rushers will be the only ones that be available to the Chargers at 22, unless they traded up, which again, with small, limited amount of draft capital, you don't want to do a whole lot of trading up and give up a lot of draft capital, especially for a guy that you are, not, extremely like he's going to be a bona fide impact player day one. So getting to the guys, I think I have about 7, 8 guys that I want to discuss and where they rank in totality and what their pros and cons are in regards to who they are, what I like about them, what I don't like, and what they're going to be when they come into the organization if they're drafted by whoever it is, including the Chargers. So, starting off with Cassius Howell. I've seen his name being floated around a lot, and he's definitely touted as being a first-round pick, first-round pick most likely in a lot of people's spaces. So he's going to be, most likely a first-round pick, I think, unless the board just shakes out crazy. But out of Texas A&M, 6'2", 248 pounds. He had 12 sacks in this past campaign of his last year in college. He ran a 4.59 40 to combine. That is amazing at 248 pounds. So he is touted for me in my book, in my estimation, and from an architect perspective, he's a 3-4 edge. He's not a 4-3 guy at all. So he would fit the Chargers scheme as we run the 34 scheme in LA at the moment with Chris O'Leary, formerly Jesse Miller scheme. Of course, Chris O'Leary is going to adapt the same principles. So more a 34 scheme going to be ran in LA this year. So he will fit the bill. Now, my questions about Cassius Howell is that he's really good from a pass rush perspective. But clearly, very fast, very quick twitch, highly touted pass rush athlete. But it's his problem again, and this is a problem clearly throughout the entirety of this draft with very few exceptions. Guys are either good at one thing or the other. They're not good at both. They're not really a complete player at this particular point in time. They can either rush the passer really well or they can stop the run and they're a little bit limited from a pass rush perspective. You get one or the other. So what does that mean from a football perspective? Now, we can harken back to Odafe Owe. I talked about him in length, in regards to the free agency period and what he was and what he wasn't. Odafe Owe is, in all intents and purposes, a designated pass rusher, which means that you only come on the field on clear pass rush downs. You're not on the field when it comes down to run downs in first and second down or third and short type of environments. You're not on the field because most likely with your inability to stop the run, you're going to be a liability to your defense. So you don't see the field in this aspect of it. Now, mind you, we're talking Odafe being mid-20s, and of course, Cassius and other guys are in their early 20s, right? So it's not out of the realm of possibility, and this is what I'm hoping for Cal Kennard as well, that you can develop a better, stronger, stout ability to stop the run as an edge player, and which will make you an every down rusher. So for my money in my space, what you have to consider, have to understand when it comes down to the idea of drafting a guy high. If you spend a first or second round draft pick on a pass rusher, he needs to be able to do both, at least decently well. I'm not going to sit and act like he needs to be Khalil Mack day one, but he needs to have some type of prowess and some type of level of comfortability that you feel like when he gets to the pro level, he's going to be able to stop the run effectively on first and second down, and he can get after the pass on third down. If he cannot do both of those things well, you're going to have to use him as a DPR or an early down guy, and then you bring in your pass rushers on third down. But either way, however the ship sails off or the pendulum falls, he has to be. He's only going to be on the field on certain cases and certain downs, and that's a tell in a sense because you get into the conversation of if let's say hypothetically Cassius was drafted, and he's not really good at stopping the run. Him and Cal Kennard will be the designated pass rusher coming in on third down. We will not see them on first and second down. There'll only be Thule and Khalil Mack, and if either one of those get hurt, we're really up against it because we only have one legit run-stopping DN or edge rusher on the team, period. So you got to consider that when it comes to that. But again, Cass is a great prospect. He can develop into a complete edge rusher, but he is not great at being a run defender just yet. Great pass rusher, 12 sacks in his last campaign. Little undersized at 6'2", but decent size. From a 248-pound perspective, but he's not great at rushing at stopping the run. So that's a question mark. So spending a first-round draft pick on him, I would be hesitant to do so, to be honest with you. So that's my evaluation on him. Like I said, he's a great pass rush guy, pass rush specialist, but he needs development in his edge rush defending. So next up on my list is Keldrick Faulk. Now, Keldrick Faulk is the complete polar opposite of Cassius Howe. He's a really good run defender, but he's terrible at rushing the passer. He literally only had 2 sacks in his campaign last year in college. And he's built as a 4-3 archetype. He is 6'6", 285 pounds. He ran a 4.7 40 at the combine, and he only had 2 sacks in college last year at Auburn. That is a problem. Again, you're drafting a guy that's basically a bona fide run-stopping DN out of college. You're really spending a high draft pick on a guy that stops the run well. I'm not comfortable with that. Again, his pro is great run defense. His con is he needs to develop a skill set of pass rushing. He's really lacking that in a lot of spaces. And if I'm a person that's a GM or a coach at this point, spending a high draft pick on this guy, especially if he needs a 4-3 archetype, I have to run that defense first and foremost. That doesn't fit the Chargers scheme at all. Secondly, you have to consider the idea that he's going to be on the field early, and his ability to get to the pass rush is going to need some developing, a lot of development, because he really struggled in that department at Auburn in his last year. So I would be completely off on Keldrick Faulk as a guy that I would spend a higher draft pick on. He's a developmental piece, and then they have him, in the day 1, day 2 conversation. So, and I'm not sure if I understand it based upon his film, his tape, his numbers, his stats. I don't see it. I don't see it. I mean, he's a good athlete. He's tall, rangy. He has a body type of a 4-3 DN. But if I spend in the first round draft pick on you, sir, I need you to generate some sacks in my space. So that's why I land with him. Next up is TJ Parker. TJ Parker's been talked about a lot in spaces and on Twitter and a lot of podcasts, and people saying that he could be a person that lands in the Chargers' lap at 22. Which I agree with. He could land at 22, but again, he is like Cassius Howe. He has really good upside and really good ability to rush the passer. Now, I would say he's a tick better at stopping the run, and he's a bigger body type than Cassius Howe. Cassius Howe is 248. He's 265 at 6'3". But my question is this: for him to be a pass rush guy, like if his claim to fame is pass rushing, why did you only have 6 sacks at Clemson? That's a question mark for me, because it's the thing that I consider in when I evaluate these players. So what's your strength in a sense? If your strength is pass rushing, okay. So I want to see your ability to pressure the quarterback. How many pressures did you get? How many sacks did you get? And how many wins did you have? In clear pass rush conversations. That's what's going to matter on Sundays. How can you win? How well you win one-on-one? How much sack? How many sacks did you do get? What type of level of production can I count on you to have from 12 to 14 to 16, 17 games a year? What can I absolutely get out of you? And then what's your athletic ability like in the third tier? So he's clearly the athletic, running 4.6 40. He has the size, he has the mobility. Again, but if his claim to fame is pass rushing, why do he only have 6 sacks? So that gives me pause as well. So I would literally give him, a hybrid tag, because he definitely has a tick better, run defense ability, but that is a knock. That's a con. He needs developing his edge rushing. I mean, and this is my issue. If you have issues stopping the run in college, when you face the 1% of the 1% in the NFL, you're going to struggle even further. That was Caleb Murphy's problem. Hence why, we struggled against the Colts and the Jaguars when Khalil Mack was hurt, because they would literally run away from Thule and run to the side to where Khalil Mack had vacated because he was injured. So your Caleb Murphy's, your Cal Canards or Bud Dupree's were on that edge, and they were just running around him. So if you have issues stopping the running in college, I would like to believe that you're going to struggle even further early on. I'm not saying you just can't correct it. All I'm saying is that if you step on the field day one, if you had to play a football game today, you would struggle stopping the run, and that's a question mark for me. Which means, again, I wouldn't argue that you can pick them up later in the draft, but I would still be concerned about spending a high pick on him. And they got TJ Parker, a late first, early second, and being mocked and being drafted. So you got to consider that. So again, great athletes, good size, good speed, but the fact that you only had 6 sacks with a high pass rush grade, that's concerning for me. It really is. It's something to consider. It really is. So what type of production am I going to expect out of you as being a high first round, a high pick, or, first, second, or early second round? I don't know. I don't know. It gives me pause to spend a kind of high draft capital on a guy that I'm not sure I'm going to get a lot of production out of. So that's my conversation about TJ Parker. Next up is Akeem Mesidor, who I've been talking about a lot. If you've been watching my videos for the entirety of the offseason, you know that I talked a lot about Akeem Mesidor. I was high on him from day one in regards to him being a likely candidate to be the only one that's in the top tier of a complete edge rusher that could likely fall to the Chargers at 22. It's a likelihood. But, me talking about him seems like I'm always talking about him, and I kind of raise his draft stock in a sense, because now they got him going in the teens. So he might not even fall to us at all. So that's the conversation. Again, and I really feel like this board, especially in the first round, is going to fall wacky. There's going to be some trades happening. People are going to shift the board, because they're trading up to get players that they really want to grab. So it's going to be crazy, which could ultimately mean that Keem or somebody else like that, or, Oani Vega or somebody like that might fall to the Chargers at 22, which I'll be happy about. However, if traditional things happen and nobody does these wacky things, then I'm not sure Keem will be there. But, just based upon who he is and as a player, he's highly productive. Now, my issue with him, again, he's more of a 4.3 DN. 6'3", 280 pounds. He had 13 sacks, and that's obviously playing with Ruben Bain on the other side. He had 13 sacks with playing with Ruben Bain. So that means they were getting after the quarterback at a high clip. They projected, he didn't run at the combine, but they projected him as around a 4.9 40. That's very slow for an edge rusher. It really is. It really is slow for an edge rusher, which means that you're not running down the likes of Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson and things of that nature. And it's a far cry from having a Dafe Owe who ran a 4.3 at 6'5", versus having Akeem Mesidor at 280 running a 4.9. It's not the best, but he is very powerful, very strong, and a complete package in the sense from an idea of what he can do day one. He was really great at stopping the run, and he was even better at pass rushing. So again, having that particular combo and complete package in the sense, pause if needed, if to have you be able to draft him in the first round, you're going to get a complete player, and he's likely going to be a starter. Most people would draft him to be a starter. He would be a starter. But again, he's more of a 4-3 guy. I actually honestly see Tampa Bay maybe taking him because they're running 4-3. And I think Todd Bowles can benefit from an edge rusher over in Tampa Bay. So he might go there. But again, if we get lucky, there's a conversation to be had. Because he's so talented, I would argue that you might just have to take him and just, just kind of make him fit in your 34. He doesn't have the speed or the athletic ability to be more of a 34 edge rusher, but he's just so damn productive that you just might not be able to pass on him at 22 if he's there. Especially with you be having the heir apparent to Khalil Mack, because I would argue his body type, his strength and the thing, he kind of plays like Khalil, like a power rusher. He's just slower than Khalil, because I think Khalil ran like a 4.6 coming out of college. So he's slower than Khalil, but he plays like Khalil in a sense, if that makes sense. So you have that. But again, I would have a conversation. We have to talk about it if he's there at 22. I'm not sure he'll be there, but if he's there, because he's so damn good, I would clearly consider taking him. And if I had it between him and Vega, I'd rather flip a coin. That's just me. But yeah, I believe that if he's there, I mean, you have to have a conversation. I think he'll be very productive, and he would definitely add to that pass rush room, and then we will have a 3-headed monster guaranteed. With him, Thule, and Khalil Mack for at least 1 year, absolutely, that's a powerhouse of an edge rushing room. So I'm not mad at it. I'm not mad at it. His speed and his agility and his athletic ability is a little concerning for me as a 34 edge rusher. That's all I'm saying. But he's great. He's a great athlete. He's a great football player. Let me say it that way. Next up on my list is R. Mason Thomas. A lot of guys talk about him as well out of Oklahoma. Another more so a 34 edge rushing guy. Again, he has that same problem. It's a growing theme, right? 6'2", 249, a little bit undersized from a height perspective. But much like TJ Parker, I want to say that he has the athletic ability, the speed, the weight, and the pass rush acumen, but he only has 6 sacks at Oklahoma. Why was that? As the dominant pass rusher on your team, how did you have 6 sacks in a whole entire season? That's a little bit concerning for me. Again, what are we doing here? So again, your past, you dictate your future in a sense. So if you're quote unquote okay at pass rushing in college, what's that going to mean in the league? Again, we're purely talking about an early first or second round pick to be spent on these guys and what I'm going to get. Because you argue that if you pick a guy in the first and second round of the draft, you likely will think they're going to be starters day one. That's what you're drafting them for. So that to me will push our Mason Thomas and a few other guys down to me. Because again, if I know that you are a pass rush specialist and you only had 6 sacks in college, that production might even cut in half in the pros until you develop, right? And again, out of the 3 guys that I've talked about in this conversation so far, Cassius Howell, Parker, and him, he has the best run defensive abilities out of the 3. But yet again, it's still something to be worked on. Again, can I trust you to hold the edge if Khalil or Tuli's out for a play or hurt or whatever the case may be? I don't know. Fingers crossed. So that's the concern. I would definitely trust Mesidor holding my edge versus R. Mason Thomas all day long, even if he is a 4-3 style DN. That's just me. So that's my problem with R. Mason Thomas as well. Again, his reduction, his size from a height perspective, and his ability to stop the run a little bit. I mean, again, it's not horrible, but it's not, in the percentiles that I like to see. I like to see 85 or higher from a run grade in college as a high pick. If it's not there, and we have to get it there quick, fast, and hurry. And then that's a dice roll. So that's my knock on R. Mason. Next up is Gabe Jacas. There's a lot of people talk about Gabe Jacas as well. Gabe Jacas, ladies and gentlemen, I'm concerned. I'm concerned. And I see why he's a second round, maybe a day 3 guy in most people's mocks, because he's more of a 4-3 guy, more of the Mesidor style, body style, 6'3", 275. He was great from a pass rush perspective at Illinois. He had 12 sacks. Again, only running at 4.8 40, so he's more of a 4-3 guy than a 3-4 guy. Real bad at run defense, though. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm here to tell you, he is a DPR only. I mean, he is horrible at run defense. He really is. Again, a straight up pass rush specialist, and I can't spend a first or second round pick on it. I just can't do it. I'm just going to be clear and plain. I'm not going to belabor the point. This is a broken record at this point with the other guys that we've discussed. 4-3 archetype doesn't fit the scheme, number 1. 2, only a pass rush specialist, can get after the quarterback, but, not as speedy as some other guys, and his run defense is horrible. So he's only going to be on the field on second and long, third and down. and that's pretty much it. So can you spend a first round pick on a guy with that type of skill set coming out of college? Again, not saying he can't get there, but how long is it going to take for him to get there? We're still waiting on Cal Kennard to get there. He's been with the program for at least a year, so we'll see what he is in year 2. But yeah, day one, step on the field and come August. Yeah, I mean, going against these pros, the 1% of 1% of these tackles, our tackles, which are highly touted Pro Bowl-esque guys, and then everybody else in the league. I can't trust Gabe to be able to stop the run day one. So I'm not trusting a first or second round pick on this guy either, in my opinion. Next up is Zion Young. Now, Zion Young is an interesting prospect, because a lot of people don't have him rated high. They have him day 2, day 3, early day 3 mocks in most people's cases. True hybrid out of Missouri. 6'5", 262 pounds. He ran a 4.7 640 at the combine, 8 sacks out of Missouri. Now he has a very, I guess you can say balanced, I guess you can say grade from a pass rush and run defense perspective. So with that being said, he's actually he is a slightly better, a tick better at defending the run than he is pass rushing, but he can do both. He can do both. So I like Zion, in all honesty. He's not the most athletic person when you watch him on tape. He's very straight line, very, forward. He's not a whole lot of finesse to his game. He's not a whole lot of finesse to the game, not a whole lot of, jarring power like a Ruben Bain. But if you give him an opportunity one-on-one, if he can get around you, he gets to the quarterback with that speed, then yes, he will definitely get some sacks. 8 sacks is not horrible. I mean, it's better than 4 and 6 and 2 and some of these other numbers these guys put up that have got high grades on them. But, for him to be balanced and be able to be a good run defender and have, really good upside and pass rush ability, I like Zion. I think that he would be more of I would say late day 2, day 3 guy for me. If I was going to go that high with an edge rusher, I think he has that tag on him. But yeah, I like his skill set, being 6'5", again, tall, speedy 4.7, speed 262, good body type. Yeah, I like Zion. I think we're not going to drop him in coverage a whole lot, in that space, but he's definitely a guy that I can definitely believe outside of refining his pass rush moves a little bit, which learning from Khalil Mack is a superlative. I think you can learn a few things, a thing or 3 from Khalil Mack, and to get yourself, in a quick, fast track to developing to be an overall balanced edge rusher. But yeah, I think I like his skill set. I think Zion can be really good for a day 2, day 3 guy. But yeah, I like his skill set, I like his tape. Just from a pure edge rush perspective, he has a really good motor. So I think Zion's pretty good, But again, I'm not going to spend a first round pick on him, but I definitely would consider him in the later rounds. So yeah, I like Zion's skill set. And again, he's a hybrid guy. He can fit 4.3 or 3.4 based on his skill set. But I think he's more of a 34 guy, in my opinion. Next up is Derek Moore out of Michigan. Harbaugh's former school that he coached into a national title before he came to the Chargers. Again, a 34 archetype, perfect, from a scheme perspective. 6'3", 256, ran a 4.65 40, had 11 sacks for Michigan last year. Dominant pass rushing guy, high motor guy. Him playing opposite of Jayshon Barham last year. They were a menace. He was more of the pass rush guy. Jayshon was more of the run defensive guy. But when I tell you that Derek Moore can play some football, he really can. And for the fact that Harbaugh, has some inside information on this kid, I'm not sure, because Harbaugh being 2 to 3 years removed, was Derek even there at the time that Harbaugh was there? But but him knowing most of the staff that was still there, the ousted Sharon Moore and other people know a lot about Derek Moore. So I'm sure he can get a really good feel on the type of player that Derek Moore is and whether or not he's a Harbaugh-esque guy. But again, a great pass rusher. Again, you have the conversation that he's not a really good run defender yet. But again, if you want to take a guy that's going to be really solid from a pass rushing perspective, with like I said, 11 sacks throughout his last season, really good speed, good size, good body weight. Yeah, I like Derek Moore a lot. I think he fits the bill of a prototype edge rushing 34 guy for sure, with his size and strength. He just needs to improve his run defense. But again, that's a lot of these guys' problem here. They do one or the other. Now, only a few do both well, and we've named them already, so we'll see. But I do like Derek Moore as maybe a day 2, day 3 guy as well, much like Zion. Last of all, my list is a guy I talked about. I actually got 2 left. 2 left. So I got 2 guys left, but a guy I've been talking about a lot, Caden Curry. I just don't get the idea that Caden Curry is a low ground pick. They're saying he's definitely a day 3 guy. I don't get it. I really don't, because his production his ability to be a complete player, his size, his body weight, his speed, all fits the bill to be a hybrid either DN for a 4-3 or edge rushing 3-34 guy. He stand up and rush the passer. He can put his hand in the dirt. Either one, I think he can do both of them well. I think that, again, he's not has the athletic ability of a Cassius Howe. But listen, when I tell you, 4.78 is plenty enough to get after the quarterback in this league. And the fact that he's a day 3 guy in most people's mocks, practically every mock I've seen where he's gone no earlier than the 4th round. Just be honest. And to be in the SEC, not the SEC, but the Big Ten, and to play with Arvell Reese and Sonny Styles in your defense and still have 12 sacks, that tells me a lot about his production. Not only that, but the fact that he was really highly graded in both conversations of run, defense, and pass rush grade. He had a high 80s in both. So he can stop the run. He can get after the passer. 12 sacks at Ohio State which is the creme de la creme of talent at this moment in this time in the Power 5 conferences. 260 pounds. Yeah. I mean, listen, if I can just wait to day 3 and get Caden Curry or the other guy maybe want to talk about next, I would just wait. In all honesty, if I'm going to get a 3rd or 4th edge rusher to go along with this idea of what's going to be the future of this edge rushing room. Because Caden Curry is a baller, man. Again, he's not going to wow you with his athleticism, but he's going to get downhill towards the quarterback quick, fast, and hurry every time. And if relentless motor, he's going to pack his lunch every day. He's going to come and work hard every single day. And the fact that he's going to be a day 3 guy most likely is going to most likely make him work even harder to be dominant in this league. So yes, I think he's going to be what they hope Lucas Van Ness was going to be with Green Bay. He has that type of skill set. Because Lucas Van Ness was really good out of college, but he hadn't really panned out yet with Green Bay. But I think that's what Caden Curry might end up being for whoever drafts him. And if I'm the Chargers, I'm spending a day 3 pick on him and just fill the other needs I have with the other picks I have. Again, he's it, man. I don't see much in much chinks in his armor, in all honesty. Again, outside of his athleticism, but again, just to get up and down off the edge, you don't need to be a wide receiver, with your athleticism. So I love Caden Curry, man. He's definitely a sleeper for me, and whoever gets him is going to get a baller. I'm telling you that. So lastly is Ndamukong Tucker, and I'm hoping I'm saying his first name right, out of Western Michigan. He played with Chris O'Leary last year. Chris O'Leary really unlocked this kid. Now, because he struggled in his first few years in college, didn't really do much. But when he and playing with Chris O'Leary last year really unlocked this kid. And I can see the Chargers taking him on day 3 potentially if they don't go after Caden Curry, because Chris O'Leary is infinitely aware of what this kid can do. 6'3", 250 pounds. He had 14 sacks at Western Michigan last year. I think they won a division, went far in the playoffs and things of that nature. So they did really well with Chris O'Leary coaching their defense last year. Really good pass rush skill set. Not so much in the run defense, but again, that's been a knock on most of these guys that I've talked about. But if just a straight up DPR guy for a day 3 guy, I'm taking him and let him, really rush the passer on second and long, 3rd and downs, that type of conversations. I'm definitely doing it. So, his production 4.73 in the 40, again, he is definitely would benefit from, being under Chris O'Leary's tutelage even further, because he seems to fit Chris O'Leary's defense to a T. And that's why I like him. He would definitely be a plug and play guy. I mean, again, to have a guy to play with Chris O'Leary and him coming in with this same type of system, it will be seamless. He knows the system already, so he will hit the ground running. There's no learning curve here for him. All he got to do is develop his body type. I mean, develop his stamina for the league, because you got to play more games, obviously, in the NFL, preseason and regular season. Build up your stamina, build up your body, get your endurance together, and, work on your technique, work on your skill set, and get better at defending the run. And you can just hit the ground running, man. So I think the Ndamukong will be a good one, at least for the Chargers. I'm not sure how he would fit in other systems because, again, it didn't work with other people coaching them, but with Chris coaching them, it definitely worked out. So I can obviously see Jesse Minter taking him if we don't, because Jesse, he runs that's Jesse's system. So if Jesse don't take him, we don't take him, then I'm not sure where he might be. But anybody that runs that type of system will benefit from him being a pass rusher and get after the quarterback early and often. So I like Ndamukong as well. So that's another guy that I have that's going to round out my list. But that's my evaluation of guys that have been high on people's list in regards to who could be an edge rushing pick for the Chargers in 2026. So what's my verdict? My verdict is this. I'm outside of Mesidor. I'm not spending the first round draft pick on an edge rusher based upon how the board's going to fall. Because we're not going to get Reuben Bain. We're not going to get David Bell. We're not going to get Arvell Reese. Most likely, 95% of the time, chance we're not going to get any of those guys. Again, let's Bain fall for some crazy reason. But outside of Mesidor, I'm not spending the first round draft pick on it on none of these guys based upon their abilities at this particular point in time. What I'm getting day one, I can't see myself spending the 22 pick on him. Can't do it. But what I could do on day 2, day 3, I could take some of these guys. My top guy on a day 2 pick would be Derek Moore out of Michigan. I would definitely take Derek Moore with the 55th overall pick after I get an O-lineman in the first. I would definitely do that. Second, if Derek Moore wasn't available, I would do Zion Young on day 2. Is a I guess you can say a slightly lesser version of Derek Moore. I think Derek Moore is a little more talented than Zion, but they're similar players in how they are pretty complete in their ability to play edge on day 2. And we're talking second and third round. And then if we don't want to spend a draft capital on day 2, first, second, third round on any of these guys, I'm looking at day 3 when they're down there in Caden. I'm spending the 4th or 5th round, 4th or 6th round pick because we don't have a 5th. I'm spending a 4th or 6th round pick on one of these guys. I would argue that you might want to reach for Caden at 4 because he's likely not going to be there at 6. The Dombe might be there at 6 in the 6th round, but Caden's not going to be there at the 6th round that we're picking in unless you move up in the 5th. You may get him at 5, but I would reach for him at 4 because if you don't reach for him at 4, he's not going to be there at 6 if I had to be a betting man. So I would reach for Caden at 4 in round 4, or I would pick up an Dombe in the 6th round. Either way, you get a good designated pass rusher from a Dombe's perspective or Zion's perspective, and Derek and Caden, can probably be, solid, rotational guys with Thule and Khalil off the rip. So, yeah, I mean, and I actually think Zion's more of a better run defender, but I just like Derek Moore's skill set that much better. If I want to pick the better athlete, I'm going to pick Derek Moore, in my opinion. He's my number 1 guy. But those are my 4. So tell me what you think in the comments, man. Let me know how you feel about these guys. Like I said, we're going to probably do online next week, probably Tuesday. And we may drop another video for another position on Thursday, right on draft day. So look out for those. But yeah, we're going to keep everything rolling. We'll keep everything popping. And, we'll get to this draft. And we will be doing a live show on the Lockdown Divas Sports Network, which will also be simulcast on this channel. So be on the lookout for that. So it will be a draft simulcast on Thursday at 8 o'clock. So look out for that. I will plug that more in on the videos coming up. But definitely look out for those particular avenues, those videos, and the live stream on Thursday for the draft. So we will be live. We'll be talking about everything Chargers and everything NFL. So be on the lookout for that. But if you're looking for look for the Electric Shock Podcast, talking about Lockdown Divas and Sports Network. But if you're looking for the Electric Shock Podcast in these space, anytime, we're on all these avenues, all these platforms. We're on YouTube. Hit that subscribe button to support our podcast movement. We're on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and Gmail. So hit us up. Like I said, hit that subscribe button on these and follow us on all our socials. And we'll be back with another video next week, man. But in the meantime, between time, I'm your boy, Coach Defense. And you got to do one thing and one thing well. You always got to remember to boat up.